What would you do if a wild bird, one that had never been fed, never been tamed, never been invited, began appearing at a stranger's door every single morning without fail? And what if that stranger couldn't even see it? What if the most extraordinary friendship either of them would ever know began with something small enough to fit inside a matchbox? This is the story of a crow and a woman who had every reason to stop expecting anything good from the world, and didn't. It's about what happens when an animal notices something in a person that even the people closest to her had stopped noticing. And it raises a question that scientists are still trying to fully answer. Can a wild animal choose to form a bond with a human being? Not out of hunger, not out of habit, but out of something that looks, from every angle, remarkably like care. Margaret Holt was 74 years old and lived alone in a small weatherboard house on the outskirts of Christchurch, New Zealand. She had spent 40 years teaching piano to children in that same neighborhood, and the house still smelled faintly of old sheet music and warm timber. Her husband Dennis had passed away 3 years before. Her eyesight, already weakening from macular degeneration for years, had gone almost completely dark in the winter that followed his death. She could still sense light, shapes sometimes on very bright mornings, but the world had largely gone quiet and formless. She still moved through the house from memory, still made her tea the exact same way every morning, still sat on the back step at 7 o'clock to listen to the garden, birdsong, the wind through the neighbor's oak, the distant rhythm of the road. Her daughter called twice a week, but there is a particular kind of silence that settles in between those calls, the kind that feels very different from ordinary quiet. One morning in early autumn, Margaret heard something land on the wooden railing beside her. Light, precise, then a sound she hadn't heard up close in years, the soft, intelligent click of a crow. She didn't move. Neither did it. After a long moment, she heard something small, placed carefully onto the step beside her foot. Then wings. Then silence. She reached down slowly and found beneath her fingers a small, smooth button. She told herself it was nothing, a magpie clearing out a nest. But the next morning it happened again. The same delicate landing, the same patient pause, and then something placed deliberately beside her shoe, a piece of blue sea glass, worn smooth by water. She held it in her palm for a long time. By the end of that first week, she had a button, the sea glass, a small silver ring pull, and something her daughter identified on her next visit as a fragment of rhinestone from a piece of costume jewelry. Margaret started leaving a shallow cup of water on the step. Not food. She'd heard that feeding wild birds could disrupt them. Just water. The crow drank it. She named him Pip. She couldn't see him clearly, but she could hear him. The particular rhythm of his movement, the specific cadence of his call, different from every other bird that passed through the garden. He came each morning between 7 and 7:30. He stayed 10 or 15 minutes, and every single visit, without exception, he left something behind. A square of foil, pressed flat, a pebble with a natural hole through its center. Once, a small plastic star, the kind pressed onto children's birthday cards. Margaret started looking forward to mornings again. She'd sit and talk to him the way she used to talk to nervous students, softly, without pressure. She told him about Dennis. She told him about a Chopin nocturne she'd been trying to remember for months, one she'd taught 100 times, gone now like something left in another room. Pip would sit on the railing and listen, clicking occasionally, head tilted in that way only crows do, alert and somehow present. Her daughter noticed first. Margaret's voice on the phone sounded different, less flat. She started describing things again, the texture of the sea glass, the weight of a particular pebble. She started asking what the garden looked like in autumn, as though she wanted to picture it. Then one morning in June, Pip didn't come. Margaret sat on the step for a full hour. He didn't come the next day either, or the day after. Something felt wrong. She couldn't explain why. She just knew, the way you sometimes know things without being able to say how, that this silence was different from ordinary absence. On the fourth morning, her neighbor Tom, a retired vet who had quietly watched all of this unfold over the garden fence, came to find her. He'd discovered Pip sitting very still on a low shelf inside his garden shed, favoring one wing. A wildlife carer arrived that same afternoon. The injury was minor, a small laceration near the shoulder, likely from a territorial dispute with another bird. Not dangerous, but enough to keep him grounded. What the wildlife carer said next stilled the whole room. She had seen this before. Crow gift-giving to specific humans is real and well documented. Researchers have studied it directly, including cases where crows began leaving objects for children and adults they had simply observed over time. Crows remember individual humans with extraordinary precision. They watch, they assess, and when they repeatedly encounter someone who is quiet, still, and non-threatening, someone who simply sits and does not chase them away. Some crows begin to bring things, not randomly, deliberately. Scientists believe this mirrors social bonding behavior crows use within their own family groups. It is, as far as researchers can determine, a form of trust made physical. Pip had not wandered to Margaret's step by chance. He had watched her. He had chosen her. And every small, smooth, carefully selected object left beside her foot was, in the language crows actually speak, a gift. Margaret sat very still when she heard this. Then she laughed, deep and sudden. The kind of laugh that comes from somewhere long locked. The kind she had not heard from herself in 3 years. Tom kept Pip in the shed for 10 days while the wing healed. Each morning Margaret came to the door and talked. When Pip was strong enough, he flew directly back to her railing. He kept coming for 4 more years. The bowl on her kitchen windowsill slowly filled with found objects, each one labeled in Braille by her daughter, the date and the item, and a guess at its origin. Margaret never stopped sitting on that step at 7 o'clock. Some connections don't need sight to become real. Some friendships don't need a single shared word to be completely understood. If this story moved you the way it moved us, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you want more stories like this one, you already know where to find them.